I'm proud of all of you. I really am. I'm proud of every last one of you. It's a family. 55 years ago, I was in a dream. If anybody that told me, I've been kind of like him. I've been like Sarah. I probably wouldn't ask you mine.
Yes.
I wouldn't have believed it. But God, you don't know what God had in store. I have been through a lot. And I just started talking even.
It is said that words have meaning. Husband, father, advocate, mechanic, superintendent, deacon. Words have meaning, but names have power. And a good name will shine forever.
This is the story of Weddie Gabriel.
Has been in my opinion, he's been a political support for the community because he knows a lot about the land, about the people that live around the community, especially when the old church was established and built. And a lot of people inquire to him in terms of support or information as far as building, the church and making sure the church is functional and operational. He's done a lot of things, I'm sure, throughout the community at large, but the biggest thing, I think, was just to hold the family unit together. It's certainly been a blessing to me. I love him, and if I had 15 more deacons just like him, I'd be okay. Praise God.
My name is Weddie Gabriel Jr. I was born in 1933 in South Ford, North Carolina, Catawba County. And I thank God for my upbringing.
The question has been posed, what is the Son but an extension of the Father? For that reason and many others, it is customary for a male to speak about his father first. It is often where he gets his name, his walk, and even his character. However, due to the nature of this story, it is necessary to begin with the plantation and those who tilled its land the longest. Hence, we look to Weddie's mother, born in 1910 to a formerly enslaved man.
There were 3 plantations. Back in that day, the Catawba River divided the counties. It began up in the mountains, and once they got until Idell and Catawba, it had widened into a river. So at that time, most of the people traveled road, they followed the river. Daniel Boone traveled Catawba River and came into Shells Ford. And there was an Indian village in Catawba named Catawba Indian, and they had what's called the Catawba villages. It was Indian, and it was a place after freedom from slavery that they auctioned off slaves. The auctioneer was a tunnel man, and the farm that had the slave was a super farm. The base is going to be based on this. On this corner farm, his own slave auction on 3 slave villages. He owned one in Terrell, and as you follow the river, it was all Langston County at that time. As you follow the river, they have what's called Beatty Ford Bridge. When you cross Catawba River, you will get into Mecklenburg County. He had a slave village there. in Mecklenburg County, just as he got into just around Cover River. Then he had another slave on Mountain Creek. He owned 3 slave quarters. Then he had 3 slave houses. At that time, my grandfather was a slave at the one in Terrell. He didn't say he found favor. As a little boy, he would talk to me. But he told me that he didn't work, it's good to say he didn't work in the field like most of the slaves. He done chores for his slave owner. He would ride to different houses and pick up goods for his slave master. He said one time he was hurt real bad. He sent him to a little black woman's house. He wanted some peas. And when he got there, she said, "Why are you coming to get the only thing I got to live off this winter?" So he done took everything I have. Only thing I have was a few peas. He said, but it hurted him, but it made him the struggle that much harder because he didn't have it as hard as some of the slave people that lived in the little huts. It was against the law for a black man to read. So he wanted to read. At that time, sometimes some of the European ladies felt a little sorrow for the little black kid, man of color. She took the Bible against the law and taught him how to read, breaking it into syllables. And when I, a little boy, growed up, I would sit down at his feet and he could read that whole Bible so distinctly, past didn't leave a letter, for last everyone distinctly. Those syllables could read excellent. I said, "Grandpa, how can you do that? I'm going to school and I can't read like that." But she taught him to break it into syllables and learn to read. Well, he became a great young man. There were other black villages in Mecklenburg County. They had named him John Connor. He didn't say nothing to me about a mother or a father. The little village over there in Mecklenburg County, they named him John Connor. Now, I don't know who his mama or daddy, but they look a whole lot alike. Years later, they come tell me and they call my grandpa, Uncle John. That's all I can say. They both had the desire when they freed from slavery to be homeowners. My grandpa, once they freed him from slavery, he was very industrial. Land was very cheap. He would raise cotton was their only means to make money. So when he get out a bale of cotton, he make a few dollars. He buy land. He told me as a little boy growing up, you stick with the land and the land will take care of you. I didn't know what he was talking about at the time. So he became a quite bit of landowner. As a young man, I thought he was lying to me about something he would tell me. I sit down and read his feet.
The 2020 pandemic was pretty horrible, but it's not the first time that my family, my grandfather, Weddie Gabriel, lost family members in a pandemic. The year was 1918, and they called it the Spanish flu.
But what happened? In 1918, It come what's called a Spanish flu. And it was so serious, people were dying. They had only one doctor that covered the whole Catawba County. And my mother's mother, he had two boys grown that done left home and a daughter. His wife died from the flu. And 3 children died. My mother was 12 years old. They all was she was the oldest on the house alive. So when that happened, they were living way back off the road at that time. He had built something like a little plantation house. They were down in the dark, no electric light enough. And my grandfather was a hard worker, so he put it on her to raise those 3 children under her. She became their mother at 12 years old. He had no boy to help her farm the farm. It gets kind of rough. I tried to tell it plain as I can. He had no boys. His 2 boys had left home. So he put her in the field. Back at then, you had no machinery. You had to plow by mule. He put her out in the field at 12 years old. She was cooking and looking after those 3 under her. Most of the time, no shoes. And she would get behind the plow in the mule at 12 years old and till the soil. Plow like a boy. Took a girl and almost made a boy out of her. You would call her there a tomboy. She had to plow the field and till the soil. Come in the evening and them 3 under her fix and plait hair and cook. My grandfather, he was he was a tough man, very tough, very tough. And what happened when doing all of this, she becomes so broke up inside. It gets rough.
Needless to say, Weddie's mother, Lavella, married his father and joined the Gabriel family. But how did that powerful name begin to shine? What is the background of that part of the story?
And the Gabriels were brought in here from Pennsylvania, which was known at that time as the Amish and Quaker country, who fought for the freedom of slavery. There was 3 Gabriel boys that came from Pennsylvania to North Carolina, settled here in Shelford, and they had slaves. And they was good to their slaves. Ed Gabriel, who was free at 9 years old, knew how to write, how to figure, how to do business, because the Gabriels had taught their slaves. So at 9 years old, the country store at Terrell's down here, they owned, Gabe brothers owned 2 stores. They owned Terrell Country Store and they owned Shelford Country Store. And in that store was your post office, your clothing, and all your goods. It was there where we didn't have cars. If you needed transportation, they would loan you their car. Buy a little gas. They owned the cotton mill, cotton gin, and the clothing. And it was our transportation out of here. We had no transportation at that time. And to get to Catawba, North Carolina, where the train, we would have to catch the post office, had to get a guy that brought the mail. He would come through Long Island, Shelford, and ended up at Terrell. Then to get to Catawba, we catch the mailman, and we would ride with the mailman to Catawba to catch the train. And from the train, you go to Staples to hook up to the rest of the world. Just think a black boy had his own business at 9 years old. He would dig ditches by the rod. And they said he made so much money And when the white men were sitting on the porch, talk about their slave and the farmhand, they said that was too much money for a little black boy to have. So they always kept a 500-pound bale of cotton sitting on the porch. They was told to me about an old white gentleman. Said he was a strong young black boy. He picked up 500 pounds of bale of cotton. And he walked up and down that porch as they sat there talking. He said, now you pay me and I dare one of you open their mouth. And then none of them opened their mouth. They ain't have paying him. My daddy said he never got married till he was old, he don't think. He had 3 boys. But according to history, according to what was told, as a young boy like that, had his own transportation, his own money, right after slavery, quite naturally he had all the ladies he wanted. He had 3 boys by his wife, but he was told he had several other children by different women. They knew it, they knew it, and they laughed about it. But in Charlotte, North Carolina, a woman, right out from Johnson C. Smith University, she went on a gable. She was raised up at Rock Spring Campground, around that white campground. She laughed about it. She never got married, but all her children went on a gables, and Charlotte are full of gables, because she named all her kids after her, but she never married nobody.
The Gabriels of Cheryl's Ford are indeed descendants of the formerly enslaved Ed Gabriel, who was born into slavery, and then he and his free wife, Harriet Whitener, bore 3 sons and 2 daughters, all born free: Florence, Fred, Etta, Cletus, and our own patriarchal ancestor, Garland James Gabriel. Garland grew to marry Nora Mamie Turner. Nora was the daughter of the formerly enslaved Pinckney Turner, known as Pink, who was the son of our oldest ancestor, Abram Turner. Grandpa Garland and Grandma Nora had 8 children, 6 boys and 2 girls. Roosevelt and Gaither both died before they matured into adults. Remaining was Leander, Joe Murphy Sr., Johnny, Andrew, Alice, and the very first Weddie of the Gabriel line.
We came under Garland Gable, and Garland Gable made well money, and he made a lot of money. In 1928, he had a brand new car. His children drove to school, owned a lot of land, done a lot of things, had the finest music in the country, but he wanted more. And when he went out, black man couldn't borrow money from a bank, so he borrowed from 2 white ladies. And the Great Depression hit in. In the 20s, my dad had went to New Jersey with another guy, was going to New York to pick up goods, and he went to Princeton Hightstown, New Jersey. In the late 20s, before 1930, and he thought things was easy. He got in Hightstown and found out it was hard up there, just like it was in the South. That he didn't see no way up there for making a good living. He had peeled potatoes and done hard work, saved his money. So he had bought him a little old car. So in 1932, him and a friend from Brown Chapel, who was a friend, he had went out and bought him an old convertible Chrysler. They came back to Catawba County, looking like a rich young boy, didn't have nothing. And a 1932 convertible Chrysler. Married John Corner's daughter, Lovella, my mother. And I was born in 33. They wedded Gabriel and Lovella Corner, but she was pregnant. And when she got ready to deliver me, she told my wife how it was. but it was rough. She was so broke up inside from plying the field that it didn't look like there's no way she could live, that she would die. Well, my dad was already a Christian at that time. They were going to church. They didn't tell me all of it, but my wife knew it all. It was a very pitiful and pitiful situation. They only had one doctor serve the whole county, and they went and got him. They didn't see no way of keeping her alive. Only if God could do it. But God is a miracle worker. He's a comforter. After I've grown, I realized that God was intending for me to live, but for her not to have no more children. When they thought I would die and thought she would die, God intervened. He saved my life, and He saved her life. As they was praying, they didn't tell me, but God put the Spirit in you to know something. That if you were saved out to life, that they serve Him till they die. And they would donate me back to God to be used by Him. I have been used, my life has been saved many times. I was saved at an early age. Most of our kids would go to church at 12, but I was saved way long time before that, and God had let me perform miracles. Let me know that what I do on this earth, it belonged to Him. As my mother was struggling after that, she was very sick. She never had a healthy life. She had a sick life, but God let her live to be 53. They ever see me married and have 3 children. And she had picked my wife. I know it seems crazy, but she had picked my wife. I won't get into that. And she had seen me to have 3 children. She had answered her prayer that she outlived her father, that she wouldn't die and leave me like her mother died and left her, and that I would have a good wife. I don't know why I wanted to question God, why He took my mother as young, but I can't explain it, but He let me know. He answered all 3 of her prayers. After He answered her prayer, He took her home to be with Him. But I wanted to build that base on how I come into this world. But after I come in and my mother had seen me grow, and she had struggled so hard, all her life she had got sick, and she had to have a female operation. There wasn't no doctor around here. They took her to Morton. And she didn't want to have it done, but they talked her into it. And she knew all her females that was messed up. And therefore she couldn't have no more children. And she was very sick. So she had to struggle a hard life. As she struggled, and I struggled with her, I saw the time, the pain that she went through, and that she was ready to go. She had suffered. And if you read the Bible, you know in Revelation it talks about all those going to be a new heaven and earth, and won't have to cry no more, and won't have to suffer no more. So I realize now what God was doing. Then as she left me here with my little wife who was sickly. But I thank God for all He has done. Because my grandfather had gave my mama 10 acres of land. But all the struggle she had went through, all the sickness she had went through, hospital 10 miles away. My dad would walk to that hospital, no car, and walk back and play in the field. That 10 acres had a little old house on it. Little house wasn't much, but he gave it to her for the struggle she had done.
A great majority of blacks in the South continued farming to live well after slavery. It might be said that working with the earth is something that we carried from the motherland. Though in 2023, farming has become a foreign skill, Grandpa John's descendants have never put down the plow, even at the turn of the millennium.
He lived off the earth. He lived from the fruit and everything. He actually lived off the earth. He had peach and apple trees in June would be ripe. Christmas time, he had an apple called rustic oak, and it get ripe at Christmas, and he have it over the New Year. He had apples on fruit almost round year, and he had everything he wanted to live off the earth. He said, "Son, take care of the earth, and it will take you." I had to get to be an old man to understand what he's talking about. He would tell me, don't get hung up in these big cities, trapped in the big cities, because these big cities have nothing at all but hardship. And I like that young. Then after he done all the different grandpa, after he told me all these different things, that old man Corner, he said, think I'm a little slave boy. He had got in hard times. And at that time, Gabriel, man from Pittsburgh, owned the country store. And the slave farmers would get on the porch. They kept a bale of cotton. And they would talk about the slave even after they were free. They worked on their farm. And what happened, that was on the most way of their cash income. They weighed that 500 bale of cotton, 1,200 pounds, like 500 bale of cotton. He said, and he come up there. He was my slave. I was his slave. And he asked me to loan him a couple bales of cotton so he could pay his bill. I thought my grandfather was just talking. I would go and sit down at his knee, because my mother would do all his chores and take care of him as a little boy. Now that gets back to when I was born. And things were real tough. As I grew up, we had no running water, had no electricity. I said we had to carry water from the spring. We built a box in the spring to put our milk to keep cold, to carry our water to wash with, and we had to carry it up the hill. Come on down, there wasn't nothing but a little old dirt road, a little old wagon road. You went right through, and Sarah Corner had a little old Amy Zion church on a rock right in front of my house. Right up there in front of my house, she had a little house for herself, and she had an orchard. And out there, right below her, was a little old wooden house belonged to Weddie Fair. She had 2 children, Carney Fair and Sandy Fair. That's all was on that road. And you're going up on the left was Wilma Calker and the little black school they were talking about building. And on up there a little bit further where my grandpa had bought 5 acres. And that was it. And this was owned by black people, Sarah Corner. And she preached the gospel on Sunday, and they have fish fries on Saturday night. As a little boy, I didn't understand. The old house wasn't much. It had wooden floor was cracked in where they had put linoleum to cover up the crack. The bedroom wasn't no heat. In the kitchen wasn't no heat on the stove. Little fireplace. A mattress that was slept on was straw was stuffed with straw. And I'd have to get out at night and scoop me down in that straw. Top of the roof was made out of wooden shingles, well, like shingle now. It come a blowing snow, and it blow snow across the bed. I was sickly, didn't have no way of knowing about white blood count, red blood. My mother get me on my knees at night. I didn't know nothing about soul. And she make me pray to God in my soul if I should die. That my soul to keep. I pray my Lord my soul to keep. If I should die before I wake, pray the Lord my soul to take. I thank God for praying, Mama. Taught me to love the Lord. He's number of little fella. I didn't know what it was all about. I was very sickly. My daddy would go out and hoe hound tea in the wintertime and get all the herbs and make a tea and feed me because I had no immune to fight off disease. He done that to keep me alive. As he done all these things, he still only lay and pray, walked to church, had no way of transportation. Then he sold his old car and bought a couple mules to start farming with. He had no car. And my daddy was able to start farming and selling. And they took that little old house and that little old building. And I began to grow. And they began to teach me about God. And my daddy would get out and work hard. And he'd do chores and start cutting little wood and splitting and selling and trying to make a little money on the side. He was splitting the wood and split it and got a little old truck. He would haul it to Morgan. He didn't have no money to pay for his hospital bill. And most everybody burnt wood at that time.
In the digital age, where Americans readily adopt the use of automated vehicles, artificial intelligence, and nanotechnology, it's hard to grasp a time without electricity in every home. A time with no automobiles, central heating and air, plumbing, phones, and television. Weddie Gabriel Jr. and those in his generation witnessed the evolution of all of these things. Even where these things may have existed, they weren't always accessible to the black man in the American South.
And Dow Gabriel was the top sheriff in Shelford until Ray Pitt and Colonel Farrell was under his leadership, under his umbrella. Dow Gabriel had the first television, and I would go up there and watch television with him, Amos and Andy. And he was a good sheriff. And Colonel Farrell, he had connection with in North Wilkesboro, where the racing and most of the liquor houses was in North Wilkesboro. So most of the time they was under umbrella, so they kept Colonel Farrell car in top running condition. So he furnished all the liquor houses in Mooresville, Catawba County, and Ray Pitt was the sheriff. And during that time, if you was under umbrella, you wouldn't be arrested because the top sheriff had connections from politicians that you don't talk about. But that's just the way life was back there then. You bow your head, keep your nose clean, and they leave you alone. But if you didn't, they had a way of getting rid of you, and was nothing done about it. But during that time, my daddy, that's when he started. He started farming, raising cotton, corn, trying to survive. And during that time, they thought we could get a little black school. And during that time, getting a little black school. But when they built that little school, I wanted to go to school. I was 5 years old. I broke my arm and I didn't get to go, so I didn't get to go till I was sick. They had their own baseball team, and they did a lot of little things community. And we had rabbit hunts on Thanksgiving. Bud Fair, we had built a little barbecue pit. We skinned them rabbits, and we have a big cookout on Thanksgiving. We killed a rabbit, skinned them, and he'd cook them. I was, at that time, black children could not ride a school bus. The white could ride a school bus. Some of the children had to walk 4 and 5 miles to school. I lived a close one. I lived a little less than a mile from the school. So when I was 11 years old, I was made janitor of Shell 4 at Moscow Black School. So in the mornings, I would get up and put my little pine in my pocket. And I walk up there in the door, open the church door, open the school door. And I would go in there and start the fire to get it warm. So the children that had to walk 4 and 5 miles, their hand be cold, they be crying. I would try to have it warm enough where they could get their hands warm. We had a good community school. We had it organized, and we done many things together.
In 1953, after graduating from the Catawba Rosenwald School, Weddie left Catawba County to study at the North Carolina Agricultural and Technical University in Greensboro. Though he was admitted due to his national work with the Negro Farmers of America, he had really hoped to study engineering. However, he was told that there would be no jobs for black engineers in the South. He would need to move north after graduating. So instead, he learned to weld and do auto body work in hopes of fixing his father's car after wrecking it. Throughout his time at NCA&T, to pay his way, he served as a nighttime cafeteria worker at the Women's College, now called UNCG. Then, in 1956, he was unexpectedly drafted to serve in the U.S. Army. Weddie became a combat medic in the few years between the Korean War and the Vietnam War. And of course, amidst all the civil unrest in America at the time, his stories as a black soldier are many.
I done been through so much in my life that I wasn't supposed to live. See, I was never supposed to get out of Texas and all. I never was supposed to get out of Texas. God said, them devils, they set a plan to me to destroy me, or else I was supposed to stay there. But God brought me out. I think about on the road, way over in the early morning. I got out of the car and seen a light up ahead. Oh, alternator wasn't working right. And they spoke to me. If I go in that town, my mom and dad will never see you no more. But I had faith, believe God. That was a tough situation. My car sitting down there wouldn't crank. Told me to turn around and put on a full dress uniform and step on the side of the road and somebody would help me. Oh, when the wee hours in the morning. I didn't disobey. When I stepped on the side of the road, and it had to be a black angel, because if it been a white angel, I've been scared to death, probably. It was an angel, all I know.
Indeed. After serving a 2-year contract for the Army, Weddie was released to live a civilian life. Having been through and seen a lot, he decided it was time to get married. He sought out the hand of a skinny church girl that he had met at the Mott's Grove campground while he was in college. However, she had moved to New York City and was working as a nanny for a Jewish family. Nevertheless, fate would have it that he and Shelva Jean Mayhew would marry and start their family. They bore 7 children over the course of the next 12 years. And by 1975, they were honored as the International Family of the Year by the Lot Carey Foreign Missionary Convention.
My dad owned his own business. So at breakfast, we got our assignments for the rest of the day. Some days we'd have to go and help in his body shop. Other days he would split us up. The girls would have to help mom with laundry or whatever in the house. And my dad raised cows and pigs, so there was times when my brothers had to go out there and help with those and, help in the shop. So we would split up responsibilities. During the day, we would have something to do that morning. And at lunch, we'd come in and have lunch. Then we'd get like a 2-hour siesta in the afternoon. And then we'd go back until about 5 or 6 o'clock. We'd go back about 4. And about 6 o'clock, we'd cut off whatever we had to do for the day. And we had time to play. I don't want you to think we didn't play. We did. We had time to play. My dad always managed to, he felt like, he always told us that we would play together. We worked together and we played together. And so every summer, he took us on a vacation. It wasn't fancy, but we always went somewhere every summer. When I was 12 years old was when my dad bought a camper. Because by then, there was 6 kids. Hotels were expensive. So he bought a camper. He didn't know nothing about pulling no camper, but he got him a station wagon, and we drove to California within the first couple of months of buying that camper. We drove all the way to California. My dad mapped out the trip, 500 miles a day in the heat, across the desert. And he had us scared because he was a medic in the Army. And he told us when we were going across the desert, there might be rattlesnakes and he may have to slit our wrist and suck the poison out. I mean, that was a funny story, but that was true. He told us that. But we drive all day, and in the evenings, my mom, we would stop at a campsite. My dad focused on the family and told us always to stick together and always to work together. He did that. He raised gardens to raise our food. I remember going to the grocery store with my dad. We had to buy 8 or 9 loaves of bread for a week. And that's just getting a piece of toast in the morning and a piece of toast in the evening. Because you figure if it was 9 people and everybody got a piece, that's 9 slices of bread. But I mean, we worked hard together, but we also enjoyed fun. We had a lot of fun together. And some of those times we would be in the garden. I mean, we were taught at a young age to work in the garden, and some of those times are really funny times now when I think back on it. At the time, it wasn't funny. But it was very fun. It's very funny now to think back on some of the things. I'll never forget one year my dad went out and he bought each of us our own hoe. That's not a toy for a kid, you know what I'm saying? And my sister, Deneen, who was 5 years younger than me, I think it was 5 of us at the time, she had a hoe that was broken in half so it was short so she could use it. And they would have us to hoe around the plants, as the grass was growing up to keep them from getting overgrown. And he put her in between the rows so she wouldn't cut down the main plants. And she just about died because she said she was hot. And I had one brother, I didn't want to be next to the row next to him because he would chop my doggone ankle off. Because he would just be, and there was one time, this is a funny story. One time we were hoeing corn. Corn was very hard to hoe. And so what we would do, Daddy would leave us out there until he would come back. Each one of us was on a row. So if we chopped down one accidentally, Gregory thought he would stand it back up and put some dirt around it, Next day, it would be brown, But that's what we did, trying to not get caught cutting down stuff we wasn't supposed to cut down. Potatoes, when we would harvest food, we would have 20-25 crates of sweet potatoes. It would take us all day to harvest sweet potatoes, white potatoes. Green beans, when we would do them, we would string all day. My mama would can half the night. So he had to figure out a way to feed his family, and that was what he did. And he would tell us, if you want to eat, you got to work because I got to feed you, Of course, we didn't understand all of that then. Now as adults with kids and families of our own, we understand the sacrifice and what they did. I remember because they believed in taking care of their kids, sacrificing for their kids. They believed in giving them Jesus. And we were here every Sunday. No matter if we were the only ones here, we had to be here. And that's the way I feel now, even now. I feel like I don't care if nobody else is here, I'm going to be here because that's the way I was raised.
In Weddie's latter years, as the world has become more inclusive, equitable, and development has begun to boom in his once small hometown of Sherrilsford and Terrell, the locals look to Weddie's wisdom and rely on his memory for how things once were.
When I had to go few years ago and talk on historical terror at the library. I was the only black thing there, a man of color. There was doctors, lawyers, county commissioners, you couldn't get in the place. When I got through talking, I couldn't hardly get out because people were crowding around me, want my picture, want autograph. A lady from Mississippi I had never met. And she told me stories from Mississippi. A woman, a European woman, told me how her dad fought for the freedom of slavery. I hardly believe. Said, "Can I take a picture with you?" Then after all that was over, there was another European lady there. Came to me and said, "Weddie," said, "you was right." She said, after the freedom of slavery, he fell into hard times and he lost all his power. He said, "Well, your grandpa was telling you was right." It meant like they brought us as slaves. They had us teach us how to read. We were just like monkeys running in the village. My Uncle Johnny went in World War II in Japan, and them Japanese girls over there running around trying to look at the black boy in the terrain. The white soldier went over there and told, "You stay with them black boy soldiers. They got tails like monkeys." And they wanted to see if they had tails like monkeys. That's what the Japanese want, Second World War. They told all them kind of lies on us. We've had to overcome a whole lot. I don't want to try to impress no man, but I say, I hope what I say will be for the upbuilding of God's kingdom and may help some young person to turn to Christ, and some person feel like there's no hope and want to give up on life, that it would help him to want to live and do what's right. That's my reason for doing it. And saying, because I'm doing it not for the praise of man, but for the praise of God.